Broads Media.
All right, well, it looks like Nick Sirianni's going to come back. The last we saw as of this recording is Jeffrey Lurie is waiting to meet with Sirianni on Friday. So you got your classic case of the Friday news dump. They know what the reaction's going to be. They know a lot of people will be pissed off. So let's throw it out there to the public when it's right before the weekend. So then when Monday rolls around and sports talk radio is back in its purest form and there's a lot more eyeballs set on some of the columns written and the articles dropped, they got this whole thing planned, and it's very unfortunate because, let's be honest, what is going to sway Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman? It's very simple. It's his coaching staff, right? It's the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator. Those two names are what will pop most in their heads. The problem is, doesn't that tell you Nick Sirianni isn't doing a damn thing? Doesn't that tell you that what Sirianni brings to the table isn't good enough and other coaches being in the building is what moves the needle? Therefore, what does Nick Sirianni do? If it's 50-50 and it's a coin flip, you have your answer. If it's coming down to other names that mean more to you, you have your answer. Now, if they are able to get, I don't know, a defensive mind that's been around the block for a long time, who could bring stability and has had a track record of being a head coach in this league, and I'm just having a barroom conversation with you right now. This is hypothetical. Let's say Ron Rivera could run your defense, a respected mind in this league who's been around quite some time. And let's say Washington wants to really reshape their entire program down there. So, Eric Bieniemy, see you later. And it's like, hey, you could bring in Eric Bieniemy, Ron Rivera, OCDC under Sirianni. Once again, pretend we're having Miller Lights at the bar and we're just throwing shit at the wall, having some fun after a cold Miller or few or 7 or 10. It's a fine Pilsner. It says it right there on the bottle. It wouldn't lie to me. Love a nice cold Miller. Would that be awesome? Would that tickle your fancy? Or is it still not good enough because Sirianni is still here? I would not bring him back. I'm starting to get concerned that Jeffrey Lurie is worried about the optics and how much of a bad look it is if you are moving away from somebody who made the playoffs 3 straight years and in the inner circle of the NFL family. Really? That's what you're doing? The disrespect. What's next? Where does this continue to go from here if you're getting rid of these guys? Is it now that you have one bad year and it is poof, you're gone? But here's my counter argument. There's no way with where the current status is of the head coaching hires that Nick Sirianni is high on the list when competing with what else is available. I wonder if there's another no-name QB coach who's looking to make that OC jump, or someone like Ben Johnson who's got a lot of pop to his name. If I'm a team, I'm hiring Ben Johnson over Nick Sirianni 10,000 times over again. I want Ben Johnson in my house instead of Sirianni. I don't think the guy is very good, and I don't care what Brandon Graham says. Or, I'm sorry, that was Fletcher Cox. I don't care what Fletcher Cox says. I don't care if Jason Kelsey's going to bat for the coach. You told me everything you needed to tell me over the last 7 weeks. You didn't have the coaches back because you didn't believe in what the coaching was preaching. I like Fletcher Cox a lot. We all do. But he's going to be a good player. He's going to be a good professional. He's going to be someone who has a ton of respect for the guy, Nick Sirianni, so we won't call for his job because there's a brotherhood in that league, and Fletcher's taking the high road. Same with Jason Kelsey. Of course, they're going to say they have to be the ones lacing up the cleats and putting on the pads to look themselves in the mirror, right? It's cliche. It's player speak. Fletch went after Jeff McClain a little bit bit and made it more hostile than it needed to be. Fletch made it seem it was outrageous to ask for Nick Sirianni's head. Hold on a second. Have you been paying attention? What are you pulling a Jalen Hurts? What? In what world? What do you mean in what world? The guy has fallen apart and collapsed and had zero answers for a traditional blitz. A blitz! He doesn't know how to stop a blitz. He's an NFL coach and you can just blitz and win. You know when you blitz? Thanksgiving in your backyard playing football with your 65-year-old uncle who's shit-faced and stoned as hell from a blunt he rolled in his car and he baked it out listening to Lil Wayne. That's what your 65-year-old uncle does. You know what you do? You blitz after 5 Mississippi and you get after them. Yet in the NFL, I guess this thing works easy as hell. It's unacceptable. It can't happen. What you're doing is setting him up for failure because he's walking on thin ice the second next season begins. What's the first conversation we're going to have as a city when they start their voluntary practices and their OTAs and all that stuff? Is Nick Sirianni going to fall apart again? No matter what. No matter what. And now everyone who will be returning, while there's a lot of defensive names I never want to see again, there's still going to be a lot of returners. Your offensive line outside of Kelsey, maybe. He threw out that tweet on the New Heights podcast where he started to cry and get emotional and it looked like he still had fire in his stomach. What did Jonathan Gannon say? You got that fire in your gut? Well, he started to tear up and get quiet. Travis Kelce's like, yeah, man, hey, get it out, get it out. Maybe he still wants to be in that room again because he didn't like the way things ended. But my point is, everyone really experienced, the returners that are going to be back next season, what the failure was like under Nick Sirianni. Therefore, the tiniest little decision that can go wrong, the worst little mistake or the lack of detail, or if a couple flags happen in a game, they can't stop the bleeding. It's already been on the record that he doesn't know how. Therefore, if you are starting a season off 1-3, where does it go from there? Right? You got to start out hot as hell, and at this rate, it doesn't even matter if you do, because what if they're 10-1 next season, and then they lose 2 straight, and now they're 10-3? Or even if they lose 1, and then they're 10-2? It's so fragile. You're constantly looking around with your eyes swinging. And you're putting the team and the organization in that spot prior to the season even beginning, prior to the draft. I don't think that is a good recipe for success. And I just don't know when you question this much. What are you getting out of it? Isn't that everything you need to know? You're asking the man to put together a PowerPoint presentation to beg for his job. Hey, prove to me you're good at this after you had one of the biggest historic collapses in the league. If you have to ask that man to do it, I think you're searching for reasons to keep him instead of listening to your gut, which is realistically leaning, it ain't good enough. He's not doing enough. He's not smart enough. From a football strategy level, I'm actually now starting to get to the point where I think Brian Johnson might be great. I think Brian Johnson might be good, and he's just being asked to call a bunch of plays that are hot garbage. Hot garbage. So, hey, pick between these 3 plays that don't work. And then when it doesn't work, and Brian Johnson sucks, or all of his options suck because Nick Sirianni sucks when it comes to not calling plays, putting together a damn game plan and strategizing. His concepts don't make sense. So Brian Johnson's out there getting interview after interview after interview. And it doesn't matter how we feel about Brian Johnson, because Jonathan Gannon 1 season ago is the perfect example. This guy's a clown. His defense doesn't work. He's getting crushed. There's so much open space. His corners play too far back. And then Arizona, and obviously the entire league for years, was making the claim that this guy had head coach written all over him. Doesn't matter how we feel feel. And the same applies to Brian Johnson. Maybe around the league circles, it goes, yeah, you know what? Sirianni's so tragic that let's talk about it. I'm watching from afar, from a distance, Sirianni internally blow up and Aikman destroy his ass and Jay Gruden destroy his ass and Dan Orlovsky destroying that ass. They were all destroying his ass because his plays don't add up. There's actually plenty examples of coaching malpractice, and now it's leading towards Brian Johnson getting some more love. I think there's more knowledge in Brian Johnson than I do Nick Sirianni, and Sirianni as the head man is having a hard time marrying his thoughts and Jalen's thoughts, and that shows you that he's bad at everything because he's not good strategy. His relationships were broken, and that's something that he held his hat on. And now all of a sudden they're not detailed. So timeouts, time management, clock management, having the right amount of people on the field, having the right person on the field. The list goes on and on and on and on. So what does he do? What does he do? This seems like an act where they're trying to save face and save Sirianni more so than actually having belief in Sirianni. So there were some interesting reports. I'm sure everybody saw the Rossini reports. That was on Wednesday night. And I do want to read them out because I think it adds value and some context to the situation here. So it was 19 hours ago. There were 3 set of tweets. Here's the first one. Both Eagles GM Howie Roseman and head coach Nick Sirianni have been reaching out to available NFL coaches and coordinators, as well as coaching agents across the league to evaluate potential coordinator candidates to join their coaching staff as they plan for the 2024 season. So that gets put out there. Maybe it's because agents are getting calls and coaches are getting calls, and when they relay that information to Diana Rossini, she puts it out, hey, the Eagles are reaching out, and the Eagles are willing to get some conversations done. Very shortly after, she quote tweets that. Though this may suggest that Nick Sirianni is safe, I'm told he has not met with the owner, Jeffrey Lurie, something that was not possible today because of logistical issues. Until that meeting happens, all bets are off. So if I'm going to continue this storyline, she gets calls and is now getting informed that the Eagles are talking and all that stuff, right? And that made it sound as if Sirianni's coming back. Here's Howie Roseman calling Deanna. Hey, whoa. We did not come up to any conclusions yet. We do not have our answer yet. We don't know yet. So let's follow up that original tweet with something that can at least have a tad bit of pushback. What I'm cracking up is logistical issues. What's bigger if you're Jeffrey Lurie other than family and loved ones? What's bigger than figuring out your damn head coach situation? You know, the franchise that you run that just had one of the worst experiences of their entire tenure, of their entire existence in the National Football League's entire existence. Screw just Philadelphia. Screw just the Eagles as a franchise. I'm talking the entire damn league. Don't you think that's more important? Logistics. Hey, I can't make it. It might snow 6 inches. Thanks, Jeff. I'll give you a buzz later when I'm done taking a shit. Like, is that how Nick Sirianni's communicating with his owner? Unbelievable. I can't roll anything out. He doesn't even know how to pick up a blitz. All right, so here's the third and final segment of the tweets. Nick Sirianni will meet with owner Jeffrey Lurie and will be expected to have a plan for how he is going to improve the Eagles. This will include a pitch on potential new coordinators and assistant coaches, per sources. This is what coaches around the league, or this is why coaches around the league have been contacted. Does he have that many relationships? He's passionate about Frank Reich. So are we going to get a Frank Reich reunion? Honestly, I don't feel very good in a world where our coaching staff on the offensive side is Nick Sirianni and Frank Reich. It could be worse, and maybe I'm not giving Frank Reich enough credit just as an offensive coordinator role, and I'm living in the he failed miserably as a head coach thing, because when Doug Peterson started to go south a tad, we said Frank Reich was it all, and then Frank Reich had multiple different opportunities and failed miserably, but I do think he has a better sense and a better feel by a large margin than Sirianni. It's not the worst thing in the world, and speaking of opportunities, this whole narrative that Nick Sirianni deserves an opportunity to fix this, he had 7 weeks. He had 7 opportunities. He had more than 7. He had 7 game days, but every single time he stepped foot in the NovaCare complex and put in the work to try and improve and to try and search for the answers, those are days as well. He had plenty of opportunities. I just saw it for 2 months. He failed. Jordan Mailata said it wasn't for a lack of trying. They were doing different things. They were really working. Well, you may have been working, but there needs to be execution. You need to be working and trying to find the right answers. If you're working your ass off but not even finding the right stuff, then working your ass off is irrelevant in this business. It's all about actually getting the results. And he broke. He broke the whole entire foundation of his ideas and his beliefs and his core values. They don't work anymore. It got to a point where it's not salvageable. No matter what Jeffrey Lurie thinks. What really irks me is I don't feel as if the front office truly believes he's the answer. They're trying to salvage the optics because now it's another head coach fired. It's Howie Roseman on another head coach search. The Howie thing's getting me pissed off too. Stop being a baby. Just shut up and stop being a little wimp. Stop worrying about needing to be the top dog in the Eagles franchise and go get the best coach available. You're limiting what the ceiling is for this team because you're scared to get thrown behind the closed door again. But don't you realize if you bring someone with more of a background and bring someone in with more of a voice, you get credit for hiring that coach even if they do have more say in personnel? I give you more credit if you're willing to really be a collaborator. You just talk the talk. You don't actually walk the walk. You don't collaborate with anybody. You force your hand, and that's why Sean Desai got kicked upstairs, and we got stuck with Matt Patricia, who was significantly worse, and a guy named Hassan Reddick, who you paid a lot of money to rush the passer. You had him dropping back at will with a disgusting concept, which makes me sick. And you would get a lot of praise, Howie, if you went out of your comfort zone. And if your goal is to really win another Super Bowl, why limit what you can be from a great perspective? I think there's a lot of meat you leave on the bone when discussing what head coach you want to bring in and when the head coaching search starts, because you're so entitled and because you are so demanding and you are very me. You hurt this team. You hurt this team. And I need you to figure it the hell out because Jeffrey Lurie isn't letting you go. You're his best friend. You're tied at the hip. You're not going anywhere. So it's almost a win-win. If you hire someone who has more pull and they succeed, then kudos to you. And if you hire someone with more pull and they start to not have then you look better. Hey, let's get Howie Roseman back because we know at least when Howie Roseman's back, this thing is traditionally solid. Had a bit of a bad experience this most recent offseason with a lot of those defensive positions, but if someone was to collapse big time and it looked worse, it's like, all right, Howie, you went out of your comfort zone. I won't knock you. I've been demanding you to at least go with someone who's more experienced and has more of a voice. And if you hired, let's say, once again, barroom talk, hypothetical speaking, Bill Belichick, and Bill Belichick had GM say and how he took more of a back seat and that didn't pan out. You gave Bill Belichick the keys. I don't know how you can knock that decision from an overall standpoint, and then therefore you can get your next wave of Howie Roseman fingerprints because, well, you went outside the box. You went outside the norm. That didn't work either. We know what you give us from a firm stance. What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose, Howie? Stop thinking so selfishly and start thinking about us. I think we deserve it. Just saying. All right. We'll take some anytime hotline calls. Before we do, though, you know my friends over at TickPick are the greatest in the world, right? If you're looking to go get yourself to a Sixers game to go watch Joel Embiid drop 40 in 3 quarters, by the way, or John Tortorella lead the Philadelphia Flyers to a Stanley Cup, or concerts, or any local team if you're not in the surrounding area, you can click the link down below in the description and you will receive $10 off of your purchase so you can get yourself to a game today, and here's a free $10 to do it. It's a no-brainer, all right? They have the best prices guaranteed. They beat any of the major competing marketplaces. They are so confident about it. If you find the same seats elsewhere at a better price, you get 110% of the price difference in form of TickPick credit. And there's also upfront pricing. So no more doing the math in your head and trying to prepare for how much extra you got to... No. Don't worry about it. The price you see is the price you pay, period, end of story. And that is that. All right, let's take some calls.
Yeah, bro. I totally agree with you that the Eagles need to get a new head coach. But I don't necessarily believe it's Belichick.
Why not?
I believe it should be Frank Reich.
Here we go.
Who were they going to go after when Doug Peterson left? Well, he was already in Indianapolis. And we got Nick Sirianni from the Indianapolis Colts. He got Nick Foles to the Super Bowl, and we won with Frank Reich. This is William Clapper. Thank you.
Well, thank you for calling in. I do disagree, though. I would be so disgusted and so bothered that if they actually went forward by removing Sirianni from this place and you put in Frank Reich, no way. No way, no way, no way, no way. I want to talk to Bill. I want to talk to Vrabel. I want to talk to Harbaugh. I want to talk to a lot of these guys. I'm willing to sit down. I don't know which direction they go. I would like it to have some more experience in the league instead of some random OC that nobody's been thinking about, and let's make him a big name here, and then in a couple of years it probably fizzles out, and then they get into a big toxic turmoil thing again, and we just literally rotate a whole circle around the sun, and the sun happens to be Eagles misery or Eagles drama, okay? And we're just one big circle rotating around it 365 days a year. Those Diana Rossini tweets, and one of them mentioned how Sirianni gets a chance for the sales pitch. I wonder if that's a leak. I wonder if that's Howie telling her to say that, so it looks like Nick Sirianni actually has a chance to be the seller, and then if they are going to announce the coaching staff behind him eventually, they can make the claim that, well, we really believe in Nick Sirianni, and we brought him back because he gave us a list of fantastic coordinators, a fantastic coaching staff that we really, truly believe in, but in the reality, behind the scenes, it's just Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman forcing it upon him. He doesn't have the stones to walk away like Doug Peterson did in that conversation down in Florida, when Doug at that point was significantly more stressed out, more mentally beat down, more physically beat down. Doug Peterson had enough. Nick Sirianni is trending in that direction, but he wasn't at his breaking point. He won't walk away, and I also think he wouldn't walk away because he also acknowledges what I brought up earlier in the show, which is if he does get moved on from, who's to say that he's taking a spot with the openings available? Because I know a lot of teams are going to be looking elsewhere. Now, this was Jeff McClain's most recent tweet, and this is what kind of made me record the show right now, because it gave me sort of at least a better understanding on when they're basically going to announce that he's returning. Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie is scheduled to meet with Nick Sirianni at the NovaCare Complex Friday for the head coach end-of-the-season exit interview, an NFL source said. They've waited this long. If they were going to fire the guy, they would have by now. And I pretty much quote tweeted that and said, so my read on this is keeping Sirianni and hitting us with a Friday's news dump. And then Patrick Flynn replies to that tweet and says, or the quote, always fire an employee on Friday. But that could limit them with some of these other interviews around town. Now, I don't expect the big names to be taken off the board, although is Bill going to Atlanta, which is such a strange fit? Who knows? I have no idea. Do you miss out on anybody if you wait this extra day? Probably not. But I don't know if you wait this long to fire him. I think you just get it over with. You get it over with. Especially because it's all about what? Public perception? More so in this city than nationally. They'd get a round of applause. You normally wait for Friday to announce a reaction that you're not going to like. And there's been even a lot of national coverage that have justified letting him go even after the 3 years of success because they don't believe he has what it takes to fix what's already been broken. It's not about what he did prior to it being broken. It's do you have the answers? And he doesn't have the answers. That's pretty well known and documented. All you have to do is turn on the games and watch. Can't pick up a blitz. Doesn't know how to pick up a blitz. He's in the NFL. He doesn't know how to pick up a blitz. Ooh, that is rough.
Yo, brothers. Let's just go Phillies. You know, I'm done with the Eagles bull crap.
No, we're not.
Past 2 months have been, honestly, the entire season was subpar. I don't care. They started 10-1. They were not playing good football. They didn't blow anybody out. They lost to the Jets. That was the one loss, and then things started to go downhill. And after the game yesterday against the Buccaneers, you know, at the press conference, and Jalen was asked if he wants Nick to come back. He's like, oh, I didn't know he was going anywhere. Then he was asked if he had confidence in Nick, and he's like, well, I have confidence in everybody. Like, shut the fuck up, dude. How about you start giving your actual opinion on stuff instead of trying to not be controversial? How about you actually say something other than the stuff that you're saying to make yourself look better? It doesn't actually help for the people that can critically think about what you're saying and not just lap that shit up like you're fucking Bryce Harper. Pitchers and catchers in a month, go Phils.
Unreal. Just unreal. Jalen Hurts did not have the back and the support of Nick Sirianni moments after the game. He had every opportunity to do what Fletcher Cox did, which was a loud statement, which was clearly supporting the man. And Hassan Reddick did the same thing, although I think he's more frustrated with Matt Patricia. What's happening is a lot of fingers are being pointed in multiple different directions based off of the position group, based off of the people, based off of where they fall in the depth chart, based off of if they're a top leader or not. And it's the players, it's this guy, it's that coordinator. Darius Slay, straight up. and he's loud with it. Hey, you fucked up not bringing Denard Wilson to the defensive coordinator role. Sean Desai wasn't it. Matt Patricia obviously wasn't it. This defense would have been way better with Denard Wilson. He ain't keeping his mouth shut. Tells you how they felt prior to the season beginning. There was already a screw-up. Hear me out. This ties together with why I have so much fear. They didn't trust the decision-making with the organization, whether it's Howie making that call or Sirianni with Denard Wilson. The crew, especially on the defensive side, said this is not going to pan out. This is not setting our team up to succeed. That's before the season even started. So maybe we should have seen this coming. So you're going to enter next season with questions on if this guy can do it prior to the season even beginning. Okay, over the 17, the story will be told the way it's supposed to be told. The 10-1 start, that was sort of the mirage, even though I give them a lot of respect for how they got there, and I don't knock them as much as other people. Because of what I mentioned prior, the questioning of the coaching decisions and Denard Wilson not being here and them not listening to the input of the team, obviously, because I'm sure they gave him a ton of support. They gave him a ton of reference. Yes. Let's go. Let's run with it. We got it. This guy's special. This guy's a dog. This guy will help out. Oh, yeah, Baltimore's having a good damn season, don't you think? It's almost like he helped. He improved. He mattered. Oh, okay, yeah, let's not listen to the players. You didn't. And the players wondered, what is going on here? You're potentially starting next season off if Nick Sirianni returns going, what the hell are we doing here? Let's see how that plays out over the 17. More times than not, it's wrong. More times than not, it's failure. You're playing with fire with this one, Jeffrey, and I don't like it. All right, what else is playing with fire when it comes to greatness is HelloFresh. There's nothing more fire than the recipes on HelloFresh. A crazy schedule can make it easy to fall back into your dinner time recipe rut. So keep mealtime exciting with over 40 recipes to choose from every single week. So there's always something delicious to discover with HelloFresh. HelloFresh does all the shopping and meal planning for you. Ingredients arrive right at your doorstep, pre-portioned and ready to cook, along with pictured step-by-step recipe cards. How easy is that? HelloFresh is 25% less expensive than takeout, so that means you get easy home-cooked meals on the table and even more money back in your pocket. So go to HelloFresh.com/50broads and use code 50broads for 50% off plus free shipping. That's code 50broads for 50% off plus free shipping. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. All right, everybody. Those are my thoughts. When everything gets announced, obviously, we will talk again. Love you guys to death. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you on the next one.